come a time when you're going through your co-parenting journey, you are going to experience what is known as loyalty conflict. This is why I'm so glad that this experience I've experienced being a co-parenting dad, I've learned things that I was subconsciously doing that I shouldn't be doing, because I'll be damaging the most precious things we call our children. But when you're in the mix of things and you have no emotional IQ, you're gonna think you're doing the right things. That's why as dads, there's no excuse now to educate yourself. There's so many books out there, so many courses to go on to educate yourself. I've taken on this journey to educate myself and to give back to other dads who are not clued up or who just don't even know that these informations are accessible. So let's go back on this loyalty conflict. What is a loyalty conflict? A tug of war. That little person has to choose who he's more loyal to, who he loves the most. How unfair is that? How twisted is that we do that kind of thing as parents, and yet we claim that we're parents? That is so twisted. So this little person is in the middle and he's in a tug of war. Should I go to mommy? Should I go to daddy? Should I go to mommy? Should I go to daddy? And what we don't know as parents, as dads, when we're in the mix of these things, is the psychological damage it's causing on these little people. We might think that, yeah, in the long run, that other parent may think they've won, but they haven't in the long run. They've damaged the kid. So let's look at the breakdown when we put our kids in this loyalty conflict. What's the psychological damage it's going to do? So the first psychological effect is this. You know, as a grown-ass man, well, as a grown-ass parent, how it feels when we have stress with our business, with household. You know what that does to us. But we, as grown adults, have got the brain capacity to sometimes deal with that stress. Can you imagine a young person whose frontal cortex, the center of their brain, is not even developed yet? Not even developed yet to make decisions, to work out their emotions, but yet it's going through stress. And these stress can come from constant worries. Okay? You thinking you're tucking Jason into bed nicely and saying you love him and making him go to all these parties and packing him his favorite packed lunch and sending him off to school. Have a nice day now, Jason. And you thinking he's not worried. He's got things on his mind or things on her mind that a young child shouldn't even go through. But you think because you've worked it out as an adult, he or she's going to work it out. Constant worries, which will affect his sleeping pattern, behavior, okay? Doesn't know how to socialize, messing up in school. All these side effects that these worries are bringing and these stress are bringing, because all he or she's going through that you as a dad has put him through. And I'm going to speak for the mums, even though my niche is not mums, I'm going to speak for the mums, okay? Even the mums, you're putting through this loyalty conflict. Short term, that's going to work. Short term, that's going to work. But the side effect that young person is having, stress, worries at a young age. As a grown-ass person, if you're working for a company or you're behind your mortgage, your rent, pressure. You know how pressure feels. He or she may not be experiencing the same pressure you've experienced, but it's still the same. But the worst scenario, as I keep emphasizing, he or she is not emotionally mature how to handle that pressure. So it's gonna come out in ways you think he or she is just misbehaving or just being a naughty kid, or he's not being like his brother or sister, because apparently some kids can cope better than others, all depending on the age group as well. But These are all the effects. If you're winning a loyalty conflict, you're gonna feel like Tigger, man. You know Tigger, when he's happy and he's bouncing on his tail. You're gonna feel all that. But the side effect, that's why when you look at most kids in adult life, they've got issues. I don't know, in school, if you ever come across a young person and they're just acting up, they're just doing things that is just not right. You don't know what happened when his mum and the dad wasn't mature enough, or never had the emotional intelligence enough to understand they're putting their kid through loyalty conflict, which came with all these side effects. So how now, as dads, if we've got all this knowledge about what loyalty conflict does to a young person, how can we fix up as dads? I tell you from my experience how man fixed up. So what do we do as dads? You're clued up now, you've got all this information, you know what symptoms loyalty conflict brings. Because you have to remember, a child finds it stressful to pick between one parent. So he's gonna have all these things, waking up in the morning, bellyache, that's the symptoms there, headache, symptoms, not eating, symptoms. So as dads, what can we do when the loyalty conflict is happening? One of the easy things I've understood, don't get involved. It's gonna be painful when the daughter, the son, the kids are saying, mommy said this, mommy said that, mommy said you're wrong. It's gonna be a challenge. You don't get involved, because if you get involved, you're already putting pressure on the kids. You're already putting pressure. So you want to stay away as much as you possibly can. Restrain yourself from what is known as loyalty conflict. Because once you are the bigger person and the bigger man, those kids will eventually see it. They'll eventually see that I don't even like to use terms like who's the baddie and who's the goodie. You know, they'll just basically see who's telling the truth. Okay, it's going to be a long journey. It's going to be a long road. You would develop more love, more trust for them, because that's what you're doing. If your ego and pride is getting in the way and you're being short-sighted, you lose all day long. But the long game you have to play is, don't play the game. You know the side effects it's going to eventually have on them. You know what their young mind is doing. You know what's happening to their young minds as they're going through life. They're meant to be kids enjoying themselves, and you are playing some game with them like it's the Premier League or something. Loyalty conflict, the best thing you can do is not get involved in the loyalty conflict as a dad, and just play the long game, which is showing love, consistency, patience.